Okay, hello everybody. Today I wanted to talk about the Spanish intermediate plateau, but really the intermediate plateau in anything that we do. It kind of stems off seeing a lot of people ask about how you can get to the next stage and how you kind of break free. Not to say that I've broken free through the intermediate plateau completely. I do have some tips that you can kind of think about to help you get to the next stage. So with most things, when you start, everything's new, exciting, and you have the energy to really put in the work, especially the first maybe 1 or 2 days. And then as time goes on, you start to deplete that energy slowly like a battery. But on the other hand, it's so much easier to see big successes in the beginning because anything that you do is something brand new, and it's really fulfilling because you can actually see the system and you understand the basics. But the problem is once you've learnt the foundations of the language, like the basics, the holas, como estas, and the colors, numbers, greetings, that kind of stuff, you've kind of done maybe 20% of the language, which is the fundamentals, the foundations of the language. But now that might say that took you 2 weeks to learn. Now to learn anything more substance, that's more complex, that really helps the whole language be glued together, outside of just isolated single words. It's really a lot harder to acquire these words and have them instilled in your brain because there's just so much of it. There's so many rules and grammar rules and sentence structures and tenses, and there's just so much to think about outside of just isolated words ¿qué tal, cómo estás, rojo, silla, random words that you just know. Actually understanding how you can put infinitive verbs with other verbs and the little glue, the connectors that put the language together, how to use the right tenses, the little tricks in the language. It's so much harder to learn that stuff because it just takes longer for you to acquire it or to understand it, depending on what route you want to take. So, for example, say it took you 1 month to learn the foundations, the basics, and you got a 20%, you got a 20% score. Now, just to get 5%, it might take you 3 months because it's just so much harder to gain those points and to gain the knowledge that stays in your brain and you can say it without really thinking. So it just takes so much longer. So it's obvious to see why so many people give up so early, because once you've learnt the foundations, once you've, kind of depleted all of your energy and excitement for the language of being able to speak to, your best friends or other people in the world, or, as us Brits love to go to Spain and, have a holiday. And that's because it kind of turns from being fun to being a chore that you actually have to, keep up to date. Constantly, day in, day out, week in, week out, you kind of have to keep topping it up, or that battery percentage is going down. Do you know what I mean? That game, think of it like a game, and you see how much percentage of the game you've completed. Slowly over time, you're going down in levels, you're kind of losing your progress, because if you don't use it, you lose it. So yeah, to keep educating yourself after the initial days can be very tiresome, in the sense of it's no longer a thrill of excitement. It's more of a dedicated chore or dedicated hobby that you have to keep up to date, that has to be incorporated in your life in day to day. So that is one of the things you should be thinking about, is are you really incorporating the language in your life properly? Are you listening? Are you watching enough videos? Are you kind of learning about the culture? Reading, or just trying to get not every little bit, but trying to fill your day with the language to really immersify yourself within the language. Next, we have ignorance is bliss, a common phrase, but I say that because when you only have a limited vocabulary, you only know, say, the foundations, the basics, it kind of is more streamlined because you can only go off what you know. So you don't have to really think about too many other conjugations and sentence structures and different ways to say it, because if you say enough buzzwords in a row, just random words together, you can kind of get your idea out there and they'll understand. So even if you just mention one word like cerveza, they'll know what you're talking about. Like, you don't really need to say the other words, don't really matter too much, because you can just say cerveza and they know that you want a beer, right? So, but the problem is when you're enlightened with all these different additional structures and conjugations, your brain can kind of, fry out, because now you actually really have to think. You really have to think about, oh, damn, like, am I saying this in the right way? Am I addressing the right person? Does it even make sense, basically? So something else that I'm quite familiar with is the safety net of introductions. Now, obviously, everyone has to do introductions, whether you've tried to learn it or not. You're going to say, hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué hiciste ayer? Like, things like that. Like, what did you do yesterday? ¿Qué harás hoy? Like, what will you do today? The kind of caveat to that is, when you kind of getting to know new people, or say you're doing like lessons, whereas I did lessons on a platform where every single lesson was with a different teacher. So every lesson was pretty much half the lesson of getting to know the person. So in a way, kind of like clockwork, muscle memory, I could say, like, what I do for work, how I am, how many brothers and sisters I have. If you spend every single lesson doing that, you're not really learning anything new. You're just kind of like, cool, you know how to do introductions, like, well done. That's actually a good thing to have. But when every lesson is just, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué hiciste ayer? ¿Qué te dedicas? The thing is, it's the same as in your native language. Like, your responses are normally the same. Just like, sí, todo bien, sí, no hice mucho ayer, tengo dos hermanos. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of get out of the bubble of being too comfortable. You can then expose yourself to trying to actually think, or to actually try and take out any knowledge that you have, hidden in there. It really helps to try and talk about things that you're not familiar with, because then you're really exposed to new ideas and vocab, and then obviously your tutor or whoever can help you, where your weaknesses are. There's no point in really having a tutor. If everything you're doing is perfect, then you don't need a tutor, right? Because they have nothing to teach you. That means that it is in your benefit to find tutors who actually care to help you grow, right? So you do a trial lesson with them. You kind of suss out whether you think they'll be a good fit for your development. And then another thing to help, get out of the intermediate plateau is to ask questions. Is kind of like, if you spend the whole lesson just nodding your head, just like, negando la cabeza, like, así, sí, entiendo, pero no entiendes nada, but you don't understand nothing, then one, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time, and you're wasting the tutor's time, because now the tutor has to spend twice the time having to teach you again at a different date, because you just never spoke up in the first place. Not to say that you're not going to understand everything completely the first time you learn it, but if you take initiative to actually, take care of your development and to ask questions, because literally your tutor is there to help you. Like, that's the whole thing, right? That's the whole point. But if you're not using a tutor, same, likewise, if you're just going over things that you already know, like you literally can do them just like within seconds, then there's no point of you continuously topping that up and avoiding the things that you're kind of bad at. It's just, kind of futile to do that. So really, it just comes down to your own discretion of knowing what your weaknesses are and asking for help or taking action on your weaknesses. So this one is quite a big idea, in the sense of a lot of people do second guess their abilities. And I'm talking about chasing the idea of fluency. Me, myself, I would say I'm conversational at this point. I can hold a conversation like for an hour about whatever, because obviously I've been doing lessons as well. It is hard because even myself, I kind of think, damn, like, I've got so much to learn, so much little bits that I don't know. I wouldn't really say that I'm a Spanish speaker, do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't say at this point I'm bilingual. Like, even though other people say, yeah, you can speak Spanish, it's just like, I guess you do have that kind of self-doubt, that kind of like internal, like, I guess expectation is like, you expect someone to be, who is classing themselves to be bilingual, to be at a certain ability. So because you know you're not at that ability just yet, you don't want to say it just in case you kind of embarrass yourself, and then you look kind of dumb because you've said that, oh yeah, you know, I know Spanish. But there'll be loads of times you're just like, ¿qué? ¿Cómo? Like, no entiendo, ¿qué has dicho? Like, so it is a sticky one. But even in your native language, you don't know how to speak about all topics with like fluency. Like if you was to talk about like economics, or like to talk about like some scientific doctor stuff, like cool, you might know some of the words, but you don't really know all the jargon that goes with it. You don't really understand the specifics of certain words and what they're talking about unless you educate yourself and learn more about economics and learn more about, you know, being a doctor, or scientific phrases. It's not as if it's like outside of your reach. You just need time to, you know, update yourself. That's why people go to school, right? To learn more about, you know, science, maths, you know, even English. So understanding that even in your own language, you are not like you don't know every single word in the dictionary is what I'm basically saying. Like there will be at least one word in the dictionary that you've never heard of in your life. Like you're like, what is that? Like you of course can understand the context of the word in the sentence, so you kind of understand what it means without even looking it up. But of course there'll be words that you don't know. That's where the idea of appreciating where you are today comes in, because maybe a year ago you dreamed of being where you are today. Hola, mi nombre es Tyrese. Quiero aprender español porque es importante para mí hablar más idiomas, no solo uno idioma. It's just about having fun, right? You're learning the language because you want to speak the language someday. So have fun with it, enjoy the journey, you know, understand that there is so many more opportunities that you can have once you've learned the language. Whether that's, you know, meeting new people, new job opportunities, you know, just having fun with it, you know, it's a skill set. There's actually nothing bad I can think of learning a new language. So it's only just a plus, really. Think that, wow, because you've stuck at it, this is no longer a dream, right? This is no longer just a pipe dream of one day I kind of wished, or you could kind of have a regret that, you know, you did try and you gave up and you was doing so well. Like, understand that you're keeping that fire going, you know, you're keeping that spark alive, and you're not going to let this be a regret. So you can have, you know, joy in knowing that one day you are going to be a Spanish speaker. So yeah. Anyway, I really hope you was able to gain some sort of value from this video. Anyways, in a bit.